All 93 years of her life, my grandmother was a smoker. When she died, I felt guilty that I didn't spend as much time with my mother's mother. And then I remembered all the times that she used to go outside and draw poison into her body. I remember how she used to write her name in the air with a chalk stick made out of crushed leaves and menthol. I remember how some people claim to smoke a pack a day, which to me is $8 a day, which is $2,920 a year, which is $271,560 over the course of 93 years, and still I feel like it should have been more present. That maybe my presence would have been enough for her to reevaluate her addiction, that maybe I would have been enough for her to stop smoking cigarettes, but this really began with my mother. You see, my mom was not blind to the fact that her mother was slowly committing suicide by burning herself from the inside out. But I knew that it wasn't the mouth cancer or the heart murmurs that deterred my mother from cigarettes, but rather is the fact that as a teenager, my mother had to watch as her father made a mistress of that same smoke and burned to death. Falling asleep with a passion so immense and made a kiln of his apartment, a sculpture of his addiction glazed with my mother's grief. And I knew after that, all my mother saw was her mother pressing her lips against her father's killer. All she smelled was the perfume that he left in every pore on my grandmother's skin. All she saw were the bruises that he left on my grandmother's heart and on her lungs, and all she felt was betrayal. When she went to pick me up only to find a changeling of her son, a carrier filled with nothing but the smell of smoke. And I can't imagine the strength it took for my mother to reject the smoke blown into her face and say no. My son will not be the progeny of a murderer. My son will not be the secondhand casualty of a beast whose job is to reach inside of you and rip everything away. My son will not inherit a legacy paid for in the blood of 480,000 deaths a year. My son will not come home smelling like a house a smoker lives in. And I cannot thank my mother enough for that, but damn. How lonely must one be to keep sleeping with the enemy? But do not think my grandmother weak, because COVID could not take my grandmother from me. A broken spirit, broken bones, and a broken heart in her 90s could not take my grandmother from me, because you see, when my grandmother died, she died in her sleep. And when I went to perform the wake on that morning when she did not, I saw in her face the peace of that final hour when her last breath passed between her lips along with her spirit. And on the table beside the bed, an ashtray with 4 crushed cigarettes. Sometimes I still tell myself how I wouldn't have mind coming home, smelling like a house a smoker once lived in.